Good Sunday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Data here with breaking news in the NHL as Bo Horvat, who had just been traded to the New York Islanders from the Vancouver Canucks a few days ago, has been signed to an 8-year extension by the Islanders, an 8-year extension paying him $8.5 million annual average value. So to go back to the trade itself as kind of like a part two to what I had originally broadcasted when the trade went down, I think that this trade was leaning in Vancouver's favor, although not by a ton. I believe it was leaning in Vancouver's favor if Horvat was not going to extend. But now they have Horvat extended for an 8-year period, paying him $8.5 million per. I think it's expensive. I don't think it's as much as he may have gotten on the open market after a 50-plus goal pace season. I think he may have gotten a bit more, but I think that is a large price tag for a player who was making, $5.5 million before. So Horvat extends $8.5 million for 8 years with the Islanders. We're going to break it all down, see where he fits in the Islanders lineup, how it works out for their salary cap moving forward, and all that good stuff. So it seems as though the original offer was an 8x8, and it ended up that they agreed upon 8x8.5, as I'm reading into the terms right now, what I'm seeing here on Twitter. I'll pull up the numbers for you on Hockey Reference. I think what would be interesting, I think what I really want to see is how does this affect Matthew Barzal? Now, Matthew Barzal, he has, 9 points. What's his contract? Let me just pull this up. 9 points. How much is he getting paid? 9.15, his extension kicking in next season. So he's getting paid as their pillar of the franchise. However, can he be the long-term first-line centerman? I guess that's what the Islanders have been seeing this year. His face-off percentage has been abysmal, I think, to say the least. 35.9% this year, 46.3% the year before, 42.3% in his career. So maybe Matty Barzal becomes a long-term winger now for the Islanders because they already have Brock Nelson as their second-line centerman who's scoring 35 goals a season. This is a good move for the Islanders if they're committing to this long-term. If Barzal is committed to being a first-line winger, Bo Horvat is your first-line center of the next 8 years. You have Anders Lee on your left wing. I like that very much. Your second line becomes Brock Nelson, center with, let's say, Bailey and whoever on the wings. You have young players coming up. You have Wallstrom, young players like that. You have a great goaltender. I don't know if I would say that the first line center was the piece that the Islanders they were missing, because Barzal was doing a good enough job. It's just, the faceoffs he was struggling and all that. He didn't have as much support. Allow him to take some of that, get some of the pressure off of his shoulders, throw him on the wing. I don't mind that long term for the Islanders. Now, if you look at the depth chart the Islanders now have after saying that they're going to commit to Horvat long-term, I don't know if Holmstrom is really their first liner here as they're on the right wing, but Barzal on the wing with Horvat at center, Lee, Nelson, Palmieri, something like that on the second, Pajot on the third. It's not a terrible lineup, but I would debate. I'm not sure if I am a fan of the deal. Now, I'm a fan of Bo Horvat. I'm a fan of him getting extended. That's good for the Islanders. But I'm not sure if I love the number. Now, the New York Islanders have a history of giving out difficult contracts, to say the least, I think, right? I think that's a fair thing to say. I think there's a few contracts on the Islanders that they would look back and say, I wish we could take that out there. Like Jean-Gabriel Pajot, he's on a modified no trade, giving him $5 million for the next 3 seasons after this one. $5 million per. You have Kyle Palmieri, 2 more years of $5 million for him. I don't know about that. Casey Cizikas, I think that's an okay contract. I think the defense is signed all right as well. But I think there's a few contracts in there right now, as well as historically. You think about the Rick DiPietro trade signing. You think about Alexei Yashin's contract. The Islanders have a history of overpayment, I think, or maybe not even overpayment, but just the history of getting stuck with difficult contracts. So Bo Horvat, who's going to be getting 8.5, the second highest paid player on the team starting next season, you're definitely putting a lot of your eggs in his basket. Bo Horvat, who has represented the Islanders now at the All-Star game. He's a member of the team. Did he play? No, he hasn't played for them yet. No. So he'll be playing his first game after the All-Star break. He is on a pace of 50-plus goals. What's his 82-game average in his career, though? I'd be curious to see that. Did I scroll past it? No. 82-game average in his career. His 82-game average in his NHL career as a 55-point player. This year, he has 31 goals in 49 games. He had 31 last year. So last year, he was on pace for 36 goals this in an 82-game season. This year, throw in the calculator, he's on pace for 52 goals. So definitely a career outlier in terms of his shooting percentage, his goal scoring. But it's not, that's why he's not overrated. It's not an overrated player. It's just a player who is not playing who I think as he's going to be for the duration of that 8-year contract. So let's pull up, let's see some thoughts here from all of you in the comments. What do you have to say about this right now? Let's see. Juice saying, do you think there's a chance they trade him at the deadline if they're struggling the next 10 or so games? I don't think so. I think any extension for Horvat would have included a no trade clause, no movement clause. He's not signing an 8 by 8.5 just to say, I'm not sure about this. If he was going to be thinking, he would have waited. So I'm a bit surprised that he's already extended. Not that he has extended, but that he's already extended. Isles in their cap space, we'll pull that up in a moment. I'll check that out. And thank you. Bo Horvat will make his debut for the team tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern in Philadelphia. Lovely. So it will be Islanders Flyers February the 6th. That will be Bo Horvat's debut. And, before he even played a single game, he signed for 8 years at an 8.5 AAV. So the Islanders, now with Horvat signed on, next season, I'll be curious to see this, because right now they have $1.956 million to play with. I'm not sure if that includes the LTIR money, but they don't really have a lot of wiggle room right now. No, they don't. They do not. So next season, they currently have 1.956862. Next season, let's say you add $750K from Zach Parise, you add 1.4 from Scott Mayfield, 1.45. You add 842 from Bolduc, and you add 750 from Weatherspoon and 5 million from Varlamov. That gives you 10.749 million to play with next season. Get yourself a backup goalie, another defenseman, some other middle six forwards. I think they're in an okay spot salary cap wise. I'm just not sure about the 8 by 8.5. Is this deal going to be looking good in 2030? That's what we got to consider. Going back to Twitter here, I want to see what some of the other people in the world are saying. Other big news in the world of sports as Kyrie Irving got traded to the Dallas Mavericks. That was a big move over in the NBA. Let's see what we got to say about this. After signing, the Isles have 75.7 committed to 17 players next season. Notable RFAs, Wallstrom, Parise, Mayfield, Varlamov. Yeah, Puckpedia putting out that tweet. Big deal in the NBA. I'd be curious to see what type of conditions that signing may have, though. No movement clauses, no trade clauses. I'm going to be curious in seeing that. It's too long and it's too much money. Is that actually what Lou Lamoriello said? That's funny if he actually said that. They already have Bo Horvat in a jersey, photoshopped and ready to go. Horvat 8.5, Lou Masterclass. I don't think I would find that anywhere, I guess, at this moment, unfortunately. Jay Fresh's card here. Bo Horvat signed to an 8 by 8.5 extension by New York, is a top 6 center with great finishing touch between the hash marks, especially on the power play. Not a big play driver, but pretty well-rounded offensively. Defensive results lag behind the reputation. I think that's a fair assessment. I think Bo Horvat is hailed as a strong two-way forward who's not always putting up the biggest numbers, 50-point seasons. But at the same time, the analytics don't lie, right? 34th percentile of even strength defense. But now put him on a stronger team defensively. Give him the New York Islanders blue line. Give him Pulick. Give him Pellick. Give him Dobson instead of Ekman Larson and who else was over there in Vancouver? Lost here. But give him a solid blue line in New York as opposed to over in Vancouver. And I'm surprised Vancouver didn't get defensive help from the Islanders, who have an abundance of that in this trade. And his even strength defense should rise and balance out for his offense, his goals per 60, all that stuff, which will not plummet, but come back down to reality a little bit. a little bit, and I think you'll be left with a very good hockey player who's in a better situation and in the prime of his career right now, playing at the best he's ever been. So Bo Horvat signing, it's extending with the New York Islanders. Obviously, a gigantic outlier season this year. He's especially been converting on an eye-popping number of tips and deflections. 30 goals and 55 to 60 points is his usual pace. Yes. So it's true. Yeah, this quote is true from Lou Lamoriello. We won't get specifics on the deal right now as it's too long and it's too much money. So Lou not happy about this contract. That's really interesting. He signs Horvat for 8.8 by 8.5, but he thinks it's too long and too expensive. That's funny. The guy who just signed it admits that it's too long and it's too expensive. Interesting stuff. Well, I think that's just about it for Twitter because we won't be getting anything out of Lou for the time being. Matty Barzal doesn't have to be stressed about the faceoffs anymore. His 35.9% on the draws doesn't have to be thought about too much anymore. The Islanders are in a good salary cap spot right now. It's just at the same time, they're still pushing like the postseason, right? They're not in a horrible spot if they want to push for next year. I think they'll be in a better spot next season with a little bit more growth and let Horvat settle in a little bit, bring Dobson back to full health, have Sorokin backed up by somebody else. And you can use that money at $5 million elsewhere. I think the Islanders will be a better team next season. For right now, maybe too little too late, as they're still what? Was it 4 points out, 3 points out, with teams above them having 3 games in hand? That's the hard part. So there's my instant reaction and analysis to the Bo Horvat move. I think that it is a reasonable contract in terms of what he would have gotten on the open market and for his production this year. I just hope that he can keep it up moving forward. I think that the trade balance definitely comes back to even at the moment. If Aatu becomes a monster and Beauvillier can be flipped for something else, that first round pick is a great player, well, then Vancouver will be happy to have gotten good value. If the Islanders have Bo Horvat become their first-line centerman and carry them to a deep postseason run sometime soon, and Barzal can flourish as a first-line winger, well then maybe they win the deal, right? So still a lot of unknowns in this trade, but I think that at the very least, getting Horvat extended brings it to an even, like the scales have evened out much more than I thought they were prior. So I think that's all I have to say on this deal. 8 years, $8.5 million for Bo Horvat, who's getting his payday after having a career year this year. Love Big Bo. Very happy to see him getting paid. Now I'll be curious to see what does that mean for the Islanders moving forward this season and seasons after this. Historically, a team that gives out a lot of money and has some regrettable contracts. I think Pajot, Palmieri are players on the team right now with regrettable deals. I think historically, Rick DiPietro, Alexei Yashin. It's not the first time the Islanders pay a lot of money for a player. And then in the moment, it seems all right, but long term, it doesn't age quite as well. So those are my thoughts on this one. If you have any additional thoughts of your own, be sure to leave them down here in the YouTube comments. Make sure that you're subscribed for future breaking news and analysis in the real world of hockey, as well as trade deadline coverage coming your way about a month from now. Very excited to be here for that, to be live for that, with much more happening in the NHL. Timo Meier trade on the horizon, maybe a Patrick Kane deal as well. Very excited to break all of that down with you here in the chat. So I appreciate your involvement. If you're not already in the Discord server, join there because that's where the news is breaking or more discussions are being had. But I'll leave you there. Thank you for taking the time to enjoy this afternoon. Looking forward to reading your thoughts on this signing. Does this make the Islanders the winner of this the winners of this trade now? The Canucks still win because it would have been too much to pay him. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. So thank you for taking the time. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday afternoon and evening, and we'll talk soon.